All right. So I got a video to make for Allie, the host of Allie Zen Zone, relaxing with Allie and chilling with Allie. All right. So this is gonna be long form, so it's gonna be on YouTube. I might even go ahead and put a collaboration link. Which by the way, just deny the collaboration link. It's just quite literally to point being like, hey, this is for you. Whoever else pays attention really don't fucking matter. Alright? So I got some things to go ahead and lay out there. Alright? And the funny part is, I could tell somebody who's a reformed fixer, like, you're trying so hard not to get involved in the situation any more than you are. Well, simultaneously, you're having a lot more empathy to show for somebody you don't even fucking know than not only obligated to, because let's be real, ain't no fucking obligations in that range of stranger on the internet. You know me shit, I don't know your shit. But the fact of that, you could tell there's a lot more going on than meets the eye. The fucked up part is you're the only one reading the room as close to accurately as possible. I gotta say there are quite a few times that I wanted to go ahead and be like, yo, just fuck you, you ain't gotta be so loud and right. And obviously that's to go ahead and say, like, you ain't wrong. Got a pretty good read on a lot of shit. But at the same time, without context, it's all assumptions, and you know what the fuck that'll end up making everyone involved, including you. So, they ain't about to do it. Respectable. Alright. So, first off, the whole after split and destroying my shit, yeah. Alright? That was real fucked. Especially considering the fact that when it comes to my collectibles, quite literally, my collectibles were worth more than this entire house. So I'm saying, when you understand what I mean? Quite literally, that right there was just one grab away. But, alright. Let's go ahead and break down some misconceptions so that way you understand. Alright? The person that I was with once upon a time, alright? They were also disabled. Alright? Quite literally, when they had to deal with healing up from surgery, when they had to deal with physical therapy, when all that, I was there every step of the way. Alright? Now, ultimately, they were a part-time parent. Alright? And the funny thing is, basically, I had been in that kid's orbit since he was months old. Alright? So we're talking for years. And before that point in time, I don't know how to really explain it other than I had simultaneously been good at being there for people and keeping their feelings into consideration, while simultaneously not being good about giving a fuck about anybody other than myself, unless it in some way ended up benefiting me. So obviously I had shit I had to work through. But just imagine getting a giant fuck you from somebody that when they were at their lowest, you were there for them. You know? You clarified to them, though, that you're fighting a war that they have no business being a part of. A lot of circumstances ended up in a lot of fucked up situations. I mean, just imagine local cops being pissed off at you because they ended up oppressing your civil liberties, and they went and they did some unconstitutional shit that would end up costing them their job and cause some public ridicule, while simultaneously wanting so bad to just handle things the way that they would have just, trying to brute force the situation. But the person they want to brute force the situation on quite literally has the entire trail of evidence to go ahead and expose their corruption. People that are used to abusing their power don't do well in the powerless position, basically. Because, let's be real. When somebody says that they'd be willing to go ahead and go on the testimony stand and just drag the fuck out of every single one of them, read them riot act, we're talking with substantiated evidence. Like we're talking that shit ain't going nowhere, and this ain't even the only copy. Now, somebody made it their mission to anonymously make sure that the message got to me that same kid, who's no longer a kid, now preteen or teenager really, still ask about me. Alright? Now keep in mind, for me, if he ever reached out, I'd have no problem talking to him. If you ever wanted advice, give her in. My only condition would be respecting the boundary that any business that me and his mom had, that's done. That's been over for a long while. There's a lot of fucked up decisions that I've almost made in my life. And a lot of things that I've had to go ahead and be my own restraint for. And the fucked up thing is when people talk about their inner child healing and talk about what issues and everything like that. Imagine people trying to suggest therapy to you when you quite literally did more hours of therapy than the therapist needed to be able to get that degree. At that point, it's kind of wasted when quite literally the person that you're sent to psychoanalyze is able to psychoanalyze you back and read you for filth. Kind of fucks up the power dynamic, but I've had to do what I can to keep my cool, because now when I get mad, my sugar drops. And I'm dealing with low blood sugar, which means that my sugar drops, I go unconscious, potentially go into a seizure, epileptic episode, yeah. So I gotta go ahead and worry about that. That's why I'm trying to have to learn to temper myself. If anything, that's part of the reason that I started going ahead and trying to learn guitar again. Trying to, get back to something that I failed at. Well, meantime, I quite literally used to have a huge problem accepting failure. Like, we're talking, I quite literally was reading at a college level when I was in elementary school. Alright? So, it wasn't even one of those thinking that I was one of the smartest people in the room type situation. It quite literally was. There was nothing that was going to stop me on the path that I was determined to take. Alright? I mean, hell, now even entire fucking law firms end up going ahead and arguing with me through the fucking internet, just to be able to go ahead and keep their skills sharp. Point being, at this point, I have let go of any hopes, any ambitions of anything with anyone, and just want my fucking privacy and my solitude. So imagine you're dealing with, just wanting to just be alone, alright? And then you got people going ahead and trying to bring up relationships, trying to be up your ass and shit. Well, meantime, you quite literally have not been able to be alone without somebody trying to fucking triangulate and, just invading personal space since I'm 13. So that is 23 years now. When somebody has not been alone for almost 23 years, and all they want is to be alone, what good would a fucking relationship do them? It'll be absolutely fucking pointless, which is the point that I've made before, repeatedly. But apparently, people are so fucking delusional that they think that people can't exist, just as is, When I would hear people saying, you're not competing with somebody else, you're competing with this person's piece. So if you're not adding to it, then, there's no room for you in that, dynamic. I get that now. My point on this whole rant that I'm going on is I think where you got it fucked up is thinking in that situation, because I know it's a not naming name situation, but thinking that the person you, reference, that they perceive themselves as the hero or knight in shining armor or some shit like that. When the reality is, most of what ends up driving their decisions are circumstances that they've already survived, and would rather people that don't deserve to have to learn the hard lessons the hard way, to be able to try to help them navigate the fuck out of it. And I mean, shit, there's things that people want to shame me for that they feel that I should be ashamed of that I'm not. Like, I mean, ultimately, if it wasn't for me already working on going over some of the things that caused a lot of inherent trauma growing up, I wouldn't have had a moment of clarity, on my way to literally go ahead and do a drive-by. Alright, because keep in mind with that drive-by, the reason that would have happened was because of something that specific person ended up, doing to that kid that may have not known was traumatic or not. I mean, you don't point a fucking gun at a 3-year-old, even if it's unloaded. First rule of gun safety, always treat the weapon like it's loaded, even when it's not. Second rule, do not point the weapon at anything you are not willing to kill. So, if it wasn't for me understanding survivor's guilt and having to have dealt with that as a kid, and having to put myself into that kid situation of having to feel powerless because, every one of the elders having that mentality of, kids should be seen and not heard, while being the sounding board. I mean, shit. Funny part is, shouldn't even have a soft spot for that kid. That motherfucker tried bludgeoning my skull in. Funny thing is, though, I'm not gonna lie, I ended up having more respect for him than I do for most people because he had the balls to do what a lot of people, even cops, wouldn't. So, don't get me wrong, there are some people that are willing to, but I've also had to fight back in those circumstances, and they've gotten to learn. I seek peace because that side of me that ends up being fueled by rage doesn't have a brake. It doesn't have a brake pedal. So, ultimately, whatever fucking judgments or, thoughts or opinions and everything that you got, you go right the fuck ahead. But the sad thing is, imagine somebody being disappointed that you didn't even perceive them being worth it to try to go ahead and look them up or look back, you know? And trying to provoke that person into trying to, look back or reach out so that way you could feel like, superior in the situation. And it's like, no, I don't play the silent treatment game. I play the if we don't talk, then, we may never talk again. And it is what it is game. But apparently when people end up learning that, I'm not willing to go do some fucked up scorn shit. I'm literally willing to do some fuck it. I've been ousted pretty much the entirety of my fucking life. Ain't nothing new. And it's not even a poor me situation. It's like, nah, I've gotten to learn to thrive solo. I mean, shit. The amount of effort it takes me to actually to even have even just a shred of a fuck to give about anybody else. It requires a lot of effort. But ultimately, it's my decision to determine who's worth that effort and who's not. So when I feel something, I feel it big. When I don't feel something, it's probably a waking moment. You go ahead and interpret that how you will.